Welcome back to the channel. Little progress update on the Ultra B. So far so good, but there's one thing that living with it I just really don't like. I didn't like it in the shop, I didn't like it in the photos. The styling I think is great, but there's one thing that really lets it down. That's this. The way this sticks out. I just don't like it. It's like a bee sting. See any other road trials bike, enduro bike, they've got the lights tucked up under here out of the way. I've already broken the number plate. We've done 71 miles. I've already had to change the number plate because it sticks out so far and when you're trying to get it in and out of the van. So I think I found a kit that might deal with this without having to chop anything about it. It's not a permanent thing. You can put it back to standard, but hopefully that's going to help. The rest of the styling, I think it's great. You know, it's quite ergonomic, it's comfortable to ride. I think it looks good. It's just that, I just don't like it. So let's do something about it. So what I've got is I found someone on eBay selling these. It's 3D printed, but I think it's got carbon fibre in it. I mean, it looks quite nice. It's quite a nice sort of print. Quality wise, there's a little bit of a low spot here. If you look at the thickness of that compared to the thickness of that, so it's kind of not printed very well there. But I don't think that's going to affect it in any way. It feels fairly firm. That's the bit that the rear tail light and the indicators and the number plate fixed to, obviously. This bolt here. I think these two bolts are just to join it together for how it was printed. It may be that their printer is only this big, so I don't think they have to go through anything. I think they're just literally to hold these together along with this one here. But that's the basic shape of the thing. It comes with all the nuts and bolts. I don't think these are stainless, so I'm going to treat them as they're not. So I'm going to put some grease on the threads and cover the ends. So if we ever need to take this apart in the future, we can do so. They've got they've printed a recess for the nut to sit in, so that's quite good. Now, don't over tighten these because you could crush this. Now that could have been, they could have prevented that by putting a tube insert in there maybe, but just be aware if you go down this route, don't over tighten it. So I think 5 Newton meters is what the figure the guy states. Sounds about right. It's not holding the weld together, you just need to nip it up. So that's that, and there is some cutting involved as well, because we're going to reuse the standard plastic, the shroud and everything that the current light and all that fits in. So I'm guessing because this is shorter, we're probably going to have to lock the end off, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So that's our bracket. I've had a quick look at what we need to take off. We're going to need some pliers to disconnect the electrical connections because they're quite stiff. A set of Allen keys, you'll need a couple of them. A T30 Torx Allen key if you've got one, or a bit on a socket. There's a cable tie needs cutting, and then we'll need this is an 8 and a 10mm nut spinner, or you could use an 8 and a 10mm spanner to do these nuts up. But obviously if I use a spinner on it, it's not going to be as easy to over tighten it. That's the tools we need, I think, and something to cut. Probably going to be a Dremel. Try and do a nice neat job if we can. Number plate currently sits about here. These are the 4 mounting bolts which this will screw into. So this new bracket's going to sit there. If you have a quick look, I reckon probably going to be about 100mm or 4 inches further back, which should bring this right up and tuck it up under here, which hopefully is going to look a little bit more stylish, a little bit more street. It's going to look a lot better, and it's going to keep this out of the way. I don't have to keep buying number plates. To get this tail unit out, it's only held in by 4 bolts, and there's a wiring loom here. So we'll cut this and stick a new one on. I know this plug is the brake light. The next wires are the indicators. So if you roll this boot back, it's a bit fiddly, but it's doable. You'll see there's 4 wires, 2 greens, a blue and an orange. Now the greens will basically be earth, so it probably doesn't really matter which, when you put it back together, which green goes to which green. But if you're at all concerned, take a marker and pick a pair. So we've got blue and green. So if we just put a little line on the green, a little dot on the blue, now we know them two go together. And that's as complicated as that is. Now, these clips are really quite good. They've got a little lug on them, so they'll take a little bit of force to get out. So if you get some long nose pliers and stick it inside this boot so you don't split the heat shrink that's on there, and then give them a tug. Don't pull on the wires, because that's how you can snap cables. Same with this one. Good firm grip. And always grab hold of the connector. Right, that's the cable off. Now this is a T30, and these are quite tight. The back ones aren't so bad, but I tried the front ones and they're quite tight. Now these bolts are quite shallow, so what you don't want to do is try and grind the end out. So if you need to put some force on here, push down, keep it in there. I've already cracked these off earlier, but they were really tight, so keep your hand pushed down on that. Otherwise you could strip these out. Now at this point it's fine, but once you start taking these out, this is where it could fall off. Now you need to hold. I'll leave them washers there. Now, just poke this through that hole. And if you look at this hole, I don't know if you can see it from up there, there's a little, that's the recess for the cables, but there's a little hole there for the cable tie. So when we put a new cable tie in, we'll just poke it through there and fish it up through there. Right, 5mm Allen key. I don't think you use that one, but these two will be going back in. And now the cables go through the centre of this. So you grab hold of them, try and get them to lay flat, because we don't want to damage it. Now this is the bit we're replacing. So if you had some good mad welding skills with aluminium, you could probably chop this down maybe. So we don't need that anymore. So looking at it, this is the end we've got to cut, I think, because that won't go in. You can't get this screw to line up with that hole, and you can't get these to fit in there. So I think we've got to slice the end of this off. That's roughly the centre line, and then we want 37 from the top. Where's that end? There. 37. Right there. I'm going to check the bottom again. I'm going to try and do this in one go if I can. 36, 35. Let's do 35. Right now. Oh well, too late now. So instructions would have been nice, take some of the guesswork out of this, but it's not the end of the world, I suppose. I think that's about right. Might have gone a bit too far, but we have to do the other side the same. That is hopefully the right measurement. So I think we're okay that way, but this has got to come off. Because that's not sitting, it's not touching the bottom of that yet, so I think we've got to take some of the material out of the inside of this. See, that's hitting there, so I think we've got to take that out, that out. If we take this out, right, so that's it on. These two screws, they hit the plastic behind it, so what I've done is I've drilled a 4.5mm hole through there, and I'm just going to drill it out so that the heads of these screws have got somewhere to sit in, so they don't hit, they just fail a little bit. Failing that, or other than that, it seems pretty good. I've got to neaten this up a little bit, but I could have gone, I did 37 across at the top from the centre line of this hole and 35 at the bottom, and I probably could have done a little bit more than that and decrease that gap a little bit. And then I just followed the profile of this about 4mm all the way around and took a slice out just so it can sit up, because it was hitting on this edge here. So now I've done a 4.5mm hole through there. We'll take this off. And I'm just going to drill that out. These two holes I've made, I'm going to drill them out the same size as these, the heads for these, and hopefully that'll just give us enough for it to sit down, because if you take that off you can't get these screws in to screw it in. So I don't quite know what was going on there. I think it would have been better if, like there, you put captive nuts in, so when this is on, screws going that way and there's just recesses like there with a captive nut. That might have been a better idea, unless you're meant to be drilling this, but I'm not going to. A couple of holes drilled there just so the heads of them sit in that. That seems to work. So now I'm going to assemble it with some grease. I'm going to assume this stuff isn't stainless. I don't think it is. I'm going to put a little bit of grease around the threads and stuff so that if we ever need to get it off, because this is underneath the mud guard, it's going to get loads of all sorts of muck on it, so hopefully we can keep these threads a bit clean. Right, so it looks like there's a relief machined in this for the cables, but I don't think it's deep enough. So now I've got to try and, this is going to be probably the worst bit, getting these cables to lie flat in there so we can push this together. Yeah, getting the cables in is fiddly, but once you've got these located and them in flat, the brake cable's fatter than the other two. So what I did was I put the two thinner ones on one side and the brake light cable on the other side. So once you've got these two in, I haven't got this bolt in yet, but you can lift it up if you hold them in place and look down, and then get an Allen key or a long screwdriver just to neaten that cable up. There's a fair bit of room in there. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but it is fiddly. So yeah, get this in. Hopefully that'll hold it all together now. It's a 10mm and a, what are we looking at, 5mm Allen key? No, 4mm Allen key. And this is where you don't want to tighten it up too tight, because I think you could crush this plastic. Right. That's that. going to put a bit of grease on that once this is nipped. Just check if you can still wiggle the cables. You know you haven't trapped one, so they still feel like they move. So that's good. So there's just enough room and no more. I think this is ready to go on now. I've took the pad from there and put it there because I don't want the mudguard rattling around on this and wrecking this light. Whether that's right or not, I don't know, but it feels right. So let's get this. I'm going to stick it on and see what it looks like. I've just pushed some of these cables back into here because there's a bit of a void here, and we've got 100mm of cable to get rid of that we didn't have here before, so I don't want a big bunch of it, because if you know anything about these seats are a bit of a pain to get down anyway. So I've pushed as much as I can back in, which proves that we're not kinked as well, because I've got probably an inch gone back in. Because I've put this pad on, that does touch the mudguard, so it does push up on the mudguard a little bit. We'll see. Now these bolts are longer, or two of them are longer than the other two. Let's try and get a nut in there. Right, there's one. There we go. It's snug. I'm using the short ones at the front. I think they could have curved this thing a little bit more, or raised this bit up a little bit, put another maybe 5mm of material on this. Might have made it a little bit easier to go in, but it's going. Nip that up. I want to see where that block sits, if that is it actually necessary. But first impressions, it looks so much nicer sat there. Number plates at a better angle. Then the bolts. I think that's cinched down as far as it's going to go. Left that little sponge bit under there just to keep that away from that. I think that's the right thing to do. It seems to fit all right. So next thing is I'm just going to double check my bolts, and then we'll plug it in and make sure that all the electrics work. That's the blue and green that we marked earlier, so we can keep them together. And these have got a little like indentation, so they obviously clip into a groove, so it should go in with a nice click. There we go. That's one. There's two, so blue and green, that's fine. We'll plug our brake light in. There's a brake light and or tail light I should call it. It does the tail light and the brake light. And then green. There we go, that's that. Right, now's the time to check it. So if we've got this right, you should see tail light as soon as I turn this on. Brake light, yep, both of them. If one works, they're both going to work. And then left indicator, right indicator, hazard lights. Right, happy days. That works good. Okay, so now we've got to hide all this wire in. Let's get these back in this boot. It doesn't cover all of it, but now that cable tie. I'm going to bend the end of this up so that when I put it through this little hole here, it's going to want to point up in direction I can catch it, and then little Allen key and just push it. Done that before, haven't I? Okay, now this is the bit that I'm not sure about, how much of this we're going to be able to tuck out of the way and then get the seat back down. That's going to be the proof of this concept. I don't want to make too much of a bundle. I don't want too many bends in this cable, but I don't want it too bulky either. Hopefully that should... It doesn't look too bad, but if you start getting tail-like problems, that's where we start looking right there. Right, cut that off. And I'll try and move that into there, out of harm's way. I think that plug's going to get squished. Right, see if the seat goes on. There we go. Well, no worse than normal. That's it done. I couldn't tell how long this takes because obviously filming it always quadruples things, but I think this looks so much better. I did adjust the cable a little bit, just shifted it over because the brake, the connector for the brake light was too far or too close to the metal. I didn't like it, so I just shifted that over. But the seat goes on fine. The connector's right back here, so as long as you're not taking passions, it's not going to be a problem anyway. But yeah, I think that looks a lot better. I mean, the original one was out here somewhere and it was lower. The number plate was a lot flatter, so more prone to getting damaged, as I can attest to. But yeah, nice and simple little job that, really. Once you've cut it out, you could go not as far as I did, make it a little bit neater, but it doesn't look, it looks fine. It's underneath the mudguard, you'll never see it anyway. But yeah, I think it looks really good now. I'm really happy with that. I didn't like that. I really didn't like it. It was the worst bit about this bike, I think, from an aesthetics point of view, was that number plate sticking right out here. But however, we've solved that problem. £31 that was. I think it was well worth it. They could tweak the design a little bit, but I mean, that's just me being fussy. But out of the box, it's on there. It looks good. You know, the installation could be a little bit easier, a little bit more depth for the channels, for the cables maybe, and a little bit more material for the 4 bolts that actually mount it up, so it's not putting this under so much tension. But other than that, fairly simple, easy job. Hopefully you like this one. Check out my other stuff. Subscribe, like, help me grow the channel. I'll see you on the next one.